Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final episode of the Three Man Weave College Basketball podcast, only for the 2024-25 season. It's not the last one. We're not cutting it off at 397, so close to a number 400 milestone for episodes. Don't worry, folks. But yes, we are wrapping up the 2025 season, the season of the Gators' return to prominence. Chomp, chomp, chomp. They're back, the champs. I am Jim Root, your host this week, joined by Kai McEwen and Matthew Cox. I am down south in Gator territory in Florida, Tampa. Well, not too far from Gainesville. Could maybe pop up for a celebration brew or two. But fellas, how are we feeling? Kai, you joined me in San Antonio. Matthew stayed
Yeah, how are you both
back,
feeling?
held it
You didn't
down,
miss
held down the
much.
fort. Yeah, Kai, how are you?
Jim, I'm doing good. I'm a little run down from San Antonio, though I am recovering. I went from complete zombie to mummy to vampire yesterday. And Matthew, now I'm a day walker. So I'm feeling a little bit better. That's a vampire that can go in the sun, by the way. I know you're not a nerd, Matt, so I have to explain stuff to you.
No, I'm a cool
Um,
guy.
I am feeling I'm feeling better. San Antonio is great. We'll of course do a little recap of that. I want to know how Matt's doing. Matt, little FOMO seeing the boys down in Texas.
Yes. Yeah. But dialed in here at the task at hand, Kai, first week of paternity leave for Daddy Matty over here. So all eyes on the prize. But yes, some sad moments watching, especially our Gators. I was trying to go back and look at the podcast guest ordering. I know TG was one of our first guests. So I basically what we're trying to say is if you're a coach looking to elevate your career to launch yourself into that next stratosphere, the three-man weave has been a great incubation launching pad for you in your career. So just keep that in mind, young coaches out there listening. That's all. So.
Yeah, it's not just him. We've had some other coaches who've elevated themselves. So even if you're an SID listening, sell us your
Right.
coach. Send him to us. Pimp him out to the Three Man Weave podcast. We'd love to have him on. Kai, I hope you stay vampire and you have a vampire weekend.
Oh, thanks, Jim. Thanks, Jim.
There we go. All right, folks. Yes, we are going to have a little bit of a Final Four recap. We'll talk about the games. We'll talk about our wonderful social excursions. We bounced around the Riverwalk a little bit with folks. Saw people Thursday night, Sunday, etc. Really, really good time down there in a wonderful Final Four city. As good as it gets, really, if I'm being honest. We've got a couple good ones coming up with Indy and Detroit, and then Vegas. But San Antonio, man, the Alamo Dome's great. The Riverwalk's terrific. We're going to heap praise on the Lone Star State. So we'll get to that. We'll also do a little bit of season reflection, just kind of a look back on what happened, what was. Maybe we'll thank the listeners. We'll probably thank the listeners. And then we'll end with some reviews. And just anything that got left, notes that we haven't covered, we will hit those. But before we do, a little bit of self-promotion. Shout out to Jay Pitty, aka Joe Paskov, the composer of our opening tunes. Follow us on Twitter at 3MWCBB underscore CBB. Excuse me, 3MW underscore CBB. Lock it down, Jim. That is our handle on Twitter and Instagram. There was a little bit of content sprinkled out there from San Antonio. Kai was all over it. I think I went to help once and realized I wasn't logged into the account and we didn't know the password. So that tells you how recently I've done it. But I will step up and log back in soon. Subscribe to the pod on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, wherever it is you get your PCasts. Leave us reviews, specifically on the Apple Podcast app. That's where we pull the reviews from. Helps with findability, helps with listenership, and we love a 5-star. Stroke our ego a little bit. Makes us feel great. Subscribe to the YouTube channel where this is streaming live Friday morning here on live on YouTube. If you want to join, we got the chat section going. And join the burner ball, folks. Get in there. We are working hard to get transfer portal fit analysis out to you. We've got over almost 150 write-ups on where guys are headed, what kind of player they are, how they fit in their new scheme. That's a nice resource there, exclusive to Burner subscribers to go with all of Trilly's intel, everything else you get within the Burner, the discussion. You can, get hyped about your team. You can complain about your coach. That's what it's all for in the Burner. Only $6 a month. Get in there, join, talk hoops, and read what we've got to say. We're like 20,000 words on transfers. So chances are we've talked about your guy. If not, just come in and request it, and we'll give our opinion.
No better time to join, Jim. No better
That's
time
right, Matthew.
to join.
It is the hot zone for the hot stove, the off-season hot stove for college hoops. So we'd love to have you in there. All right, that pretty much wraps up the intro here, fellas. Let's get into a little Roots Roundup, update people on news and notes. Before we do, Matt, a quick shout out to CBB Analytics, gold standard of team and player statistical breakdowns. One of the best resources for what we're doing with transfer portal fit analysis. I've used it on essentially every single player that's committed to a new school. So yeah, CBB Analytics.
Yeah, I would say that there's no better time to join CBB Analytics as well, Jim. I'm just looking right here on my second monitor, Frankie Collins shot chart from 3 straight years, side by side by side. Great to break down guys that you don't know anything about in the portal that your team is targeting, that your team just signed, that you just lost. Looking at teams overall, the visualization of the shot charts and the heat maps, I think it really is like the one thing about the site that we love, even though it has everything else that you could possibly imagine. That's why it's a great one-stop shop. But again, highlighting just how awesome those heat map shot charts are. Sign up today, please, folks. Again, no better time to join with all the players moving so quickly. The musical chairs of rosters and personnel at this stage of the college uh, season, or off season, I should say, is crazy. And again, you can go back multiple years, right? Like you can go look at these guys back to 3, 4, 5 years, and the D2 guys. We're seeing a lot of those mid-major teams out there signing more and more D2, D3. Again, that data is there, and you can visualize the same shot chart stuff, contextualize with the same competition, opponents, and what have you. So, coaches, no reason why you're not on this. If you're in a coach, any assistant or SID or Dobo listening, no reason why you're not already on this. If you're a diehard fan, prove yourself worthy of that knowledge of ball knowing and join as well. Please use our promo code when you sign up. That's Weave, WEAVE, for $40 off. And coaches, if you want the Holy Grail access, contact us directly. We'll get you in touch with Nick. Jim?
Oh, well said, Matthew. Well said. All right, we're going to start off with the key headline of the sport, and that would be Florida as your national champion for the third time in school history, going back to 2006 and 2007, last time that they summited the peak of the entire sport. And Todd Golden, as Matt mentioned, a past and future guest of the show, hopefully. The youngest title-winning coach since Jim Valvano. I wasn't even aware of that until they said it when he was up on the dais. Even he kind of like had a double take. Pretty darn impressive to topple Kelvin Sampson. Guys, can you name one of the other two coaching matchups that had a wider age spread than Todd Golden versus Kelvin Sampson? A little bit of a mini trivia. One of them is generally impossible, and one of them is semi-possible.
Wait, Shire Sampson wasn't?
No, in a title game.
Oh, in a title game. Oh, okay. Valvano was the youngest. I don't know who he coached against. Is that one of them, Jim?
It was not. It was not Valvano. The one that's gettable is Brad Stevens versus Jim Calhoun. That is
Okay.
the what it was. A slightly larger age gap than Golden versus Sampson. Really impressive stuff. I'm sure he's going to get mentioned for NBA things. If he loses in the semifinals to Auburn, is he an NBA candidate? I don't know. People like to overreact to things, but we'll see. See, does he build a dynasty in Gainesville? What happens with Todd in the future? Really excited to see because, boy, already winning a title and is his first title capable team. I'm sure Mark Few or Kelvin Sampson would love to have been able to do that rather than swing and miss on the biggest stage a couple times. I wanted to mention the win probability in Florida's run because it's about as unlikely as it gets. Not quite the most unlikely run, but 99% versus Norfolk State. Okay, no surprise there. Dropped down to sub 40 versus UConn late in the game, and 66% versus Maryland in the Sweet 16. All right, okay, this team's looking pretty good. But against Texas Tech in the Elite Eight, got down to 5.6% chance of winning, down to 18.8% against Auburn in the Final Four, and just 10.2% against Houston in the title game. So they got below 20% win probability in all three of their last three games, came back from double figures, and actually at least 9 in all three of those games deficit. Just looking back on 2019 Virginia, which felt like one of the most unlikely title wins based on late game happenings, luck, whatever you want to call it. Virginia was 12.2%, 5.5%, and then 13% in the Elite Eight Final Four title game. So a little less likely, than Florida, but that kind of puts some context on how crazy this Gator run was late in games, the mettle that they showed, being able to pull those games out, some of the Walter Clayton shot making, the defense actually really stepped up late. So incredible work by the Gators. Matt, do you want to quick climb on a pedestal? We'll talk more Florida later, but that obviously is the biggest headline of the sport right now.
I was trying to think what game did I think Florida was toast more confidently in? Was it the Texas Tech game or was it the Houston game? And I kind of think the Houston game, I was really like, okay, this is over, right? I just felt like the Houston narratives, the way they were playing, their defense, and then the fact that Florida's defense. I think we said this about a lot of SEC teams this year that we question their defensive acumen, but when when they wanted to guard, they could guard at an elite level. They proved it all year. The top 10 defense, I believe, top 15, top 10. But they had they had a different gear, not maybe quite Houston gear, but in that game they outplayed Houston on defense, which is pretty crazy. So,
yep, down the stretch, really took care of business, forced 4 Houston turnovers in the final minute. Ooh, impressive stuff from the Gator defense. All right, coaching news. Let's talk a little bit of the carousel. We're getting close to wrapping it all up, but there are a few to talk about here, and we'll have our coaching hire grades probably next week. Yeah, we'll see. Coming up very, very soon. The last big one, last big domino here, Texas A&M in response to Buzz Williams taking Maryland. Kai, they, in a rather surprising move, plucked Bucky McMillan from Samford, the man who had coached and lived in the same town pretty much his entire life. His promotion from high school to Samford was like a shorter commute, basically. And now he heads to College Station, the SEC, Bucky Ball. Is this going to work, Kai, or does he need a major style shift going to the SEC?
Jim, I would suggest to Bucky that he shifts his style just a little bit. We've seen examples of coaches come up to the big leagues, so to speak, with frenetic styles. Brad Underwood seems to be the biggest example we always try to pull, where it's like, oh, he brought his press up to Oklahoma State. It didn't quite work out as he wanted to. He has since adjusted his style and played a better one for his makeup, his roster makeup. Bucky, number one, difficult sledding right now in the transfer portal. So Texas A&M's talent, not great at the current moment. Obviously, could change a lot as the summer goes on. But less talent equals, hey, maybe you don't play breakneck speed, especially when you're in the SEC. Bucky, I think, is a good coach. He's a smart guy. He'll learn this. But yeah, I think you're going to see a difference between the crazy frenetic pace you saw at Samford and what he plays at A&M. I do think he'll be good, Matt. However, the fish out of water thing, where he's never lived anywhere else besides like Alabama, Birmingham area, does worry me a bit on the big stage.
he talked about that in his press conference. I do think his style is going to be Bucky Ball. I think he's pretty resolute in sticking to that. But you're right. The talent he's going to have year one, given he kind of took over a little bit late in the cycle, does worry me. But especially for a roster that needs a ton of depth, Jim, that's not a team that plays 6 guys, a team that plays 10, and they're all pretty good. So I'm optimistic and bullish, but how soon? Don't know. Unclear, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that whether he wants to run that style or not, he's going to have to change. I think he's going to run
Okay.
into the idea let's try it, and that's like Kyle said with Underwood, tried to press like crazy at Oklahoma State, and it just did not work. And right now, that roster is as bleak as a Power Five roster as you'll find. It's arguably the worst. There's no players on it. It's like when Arkansas and John Calipari took over, and they asked about his roster. He said, "We have no roster." That's essentially
team
where
yet.
McMillan is right now. So his team is on the court, and the court is empty. So not great, but intrigued to see it because he is extremely smart and he's won everywhere he's been. So I don't doubt him. I just doubt whether he's going to win the way he has played in the past. And Kai, I know you love this hire. To back him up, Samford with the fill-in swiped Lenny Acuff from Lipscomb, longtime Division II coach, ended up getting Lipscomb to the NCAA tournament this year. Incredibly widely respected throughout college basketball circles. Seems like a very optimal hire for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, definitely. Lenny Acuff, I believe one of the foremost motion offense gurus in history. I need to check my facts on that one, but I think he's one of the fathers of the motion offense. He's very well respected by coaches. I even sent him a little Rothstein text. Hey, coach, congratulations. I have not received a
Good for
response.
you.
I have not received
Love
a
that.
response. But I think Lenny's a great coach. I think he's going to do a great job at Samford. This is a fantastic hire to replace Bucky. They're going nowhere in the SoCon. They will stay at the
Cool.
top,
Not going nowhere in terms of they're stuck in the mud.
staying at a good spot in the SoCon.
Yes, yes. In lower levels, Cleveland State picked off a Mizzou assistant here. Rob Summers headed to the Vikings. Kind of an interesting, Mizzou steals Gates, Cleveland State steals back off the Missouri staff. A tit for tat seems fair. I don't know a ton about Mr. Summers. We're going to have to do a little research before we hop into our coaching grade section.
Yeah, I think he was an assistant for Gates at Cleveland State, so I think that's why partially it makes sense. I think.
Familiarity with it, yeah,
Yeah.
that adds up. So yeah, we'll again coaching grades. We'll talk through all the hires, some briefly, some more extensively, but more to come on Rob Summers. Navy went with John Perry to fill in for Ed DeChellis. Matthew DeChellis was kind of a fixture in that league. Had a not super distinct style in terms of he wouldn't play zone every year, but he would mix it up. He kind of go with what his roster was best at. Now we've got to learn a new guy here, John Perry. The Patriot turned over half their coaches last offseason. He's now the only new one, kind of an unenviable position as he enters a league of 9 veterans.
Yeah, and it was the one league. I think going forward, it's going to be the one league that has relatively strong continuity amongst the mid-low majors, right? Because they have that sort of academic affinity. I know the Ivy has benefited from that last year. The Patriots certainly did as well. I'm curious how that plays out going forward. But yeah, keeping your dudes is a lot easier in the Patriot, it would seem. So if you're into like more of the traditional program building, old basketball ways, if you want to be a head coach, like cozy up to one of those jobs, I think that's probably you'll be happier.
Yeah, just looking at obviously there are fewer teams in these leagues, the Ivy and the Patriot, but as of 3 days ago, the Ivy had 21 transfers out, and like 12 of those are grad students that are physically not allowed to play in the Ivy League.
They have to go.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and the Patriot has 26 transfers out. Your next lowest leagues are somewhere on 47, 49, like double what the transfers out are compared to that. And the flip side of it is you can't really rebuild through the portal when you're in those conferences. There are no incoming transfers in the Ivy and only 2 in the Patriot. So it's really tough to repair your team that way. You've got to build from within. And again, some coaches really like that. That's how they prefer to develop and build. So perhaps that'll be Perry's MO. The other coaching news, Grambling in the always adventurous SWAC carousel plucked Patrick Crary II from Florida A&M. Florida A&M's been kind of jerking him around on contracts. They gave him a 1-year deal last year. I think they were not going to give him anything long term. Again, this offseason, and good for him, go get that security. 5-year deal from Grambling after Dante Jackson, the Grambling coach, moved within the SWAC as well. Matt, I was kind of happy for Crary here, and the
Yeah.
middle finger to the FAMU board of curators that just would not give a real deal.
Totally agree. He was terrific this season. It was the first time we saw like Moneyball be brought to the SWAC, and it was an immediate success. I think they covered like 14 games in a row or something. Like they were terrific. He's a good coach, and I'm glad that he is, throwing the bird at his former admins who have no idea what they're doing. Literally, at FAMU.
Can I
Yeah,
get
we had some. Oh, go ahead, Kai.
I need a tariff chart to show me the level, the better jobs in the SWAC. Because there's a lot of lateral movement, and even Alcorn, Landon Bussey going to Chicago State.
It's changed a ton.
Give me a
like
chart
last
of what are
5
the best
years.
jobs. I need to know for my own benefit.
I used to think Alabama A&M was one of the worst. I think it was one of the worst jobs, and now the fact that you have some
Right.
movement, upwards from who? Sorry, who just went there again? Dante
Jackson.
Dante
Jackson.
Jackson. From
Yeah,
Grambling.
like that to me doesn't make sense. I can't square it with like my perception that Grambling is one of the better. I feel like Southern is up there for sure. Texas Southern, definitely.
Texas Southern
Houston.
should be, yeah.
Yeah.
Kai, when it's like halfway through conference season and they complete those circles of suck,
Mm-hmm.
where like one team's greater than the other and it goes all the way around. That's kind of what it feels like in the SWAC, where
Yes.
somehow one is always better than the other. There's no top job, there's no bottom job. It's just a circle. Although maybe Mississippi Valley State is the
Yeah, the
exception.
Delta Devils have routinely been a tough job.
Unfortunately, but true. And then Tobin Anderson, the now defunct or emeritus coach at Iona, Fairleigh Dickinson, defeater of Zach Edey in the NCAA tournament. He's now an assistant at South Florida. He joined Brian Hodgson's staff down here where I am in Tampa. I should drive up to the arena and shake his hand and congratulate him. But there were rumors, heavily rumored, that Ben McCollum wanted on his staff at Iowa, and he heads to South Florida instead. So a big snag for Hodgson. Tobin Anderson greatly respected in coaching circles, and man, the fact that he got fired so that they could hire a guy with no college coaching experience, the coaching experience was a little surprising. But good to see him land on his feet. Last bit of news. High Point has been dominant in the Big South under Alan Huss. Two regular season titles, one conference tournament title this year. But Huss is heading back home to Creighton. I actually don't know if it's home. He's heading back to Creighton,
Alum.
where he was an assistant. Yeah, an alum. And he was an assistant on Doug McDermott's staff. And now he will be the head coach in waiting, depending on when Mr. McDermott will retire. So I guess Huss proved himself enough in the mid-major world. He was already killing it in the transfer portal recruiting this offseason. And yeah, Kai, this is probably a logical step for Creighton here. Some security going forward.
Yeah, interesting move. I'd have to check. I imagine the pay is pretty similar or maybe even better at Creighton as an assistant against High Point, although High Point's got money. Sucks for High Point. After Huss had incredible momentum there, they have enough resources to get another good coach in there. But man, April 11th is pretty tough. I understand why Creighton wants to do it. McDermott's only 60, by the way, and I was surprised to hear that he was going to retire in the next couple of years. Seems a little young for me. Maybe he's a little older than 60. I thought I saw 60, but the implication is he's going to retire in about 2 to 3 years, and Huss takes over. We know how succession plans usually go. Not great, but I do think Huss has proven himself to be a good coach, and it will be a good transition when it happens.
Yeah, I also said Doug McDermott, like I always do. It's Greg McDermott.
I know.
Sorry, folks that are screaming at me into their
He's 60.
headphones.
Not that old.
Yep.
Not that old.
Not that old. He doesn't love it like Tom Izzo loves it, Kai.
Yeah.
That's what he's telling you. A good move. It's nice when your succession plan is somebody with actual head coaching experience and head coaching success. Other schools just kind of want to hand it off to whoever they want to, and that can be rocky. It's nice that you have a little bit of proof of concept with Mr. Huss. So Blue Jays fans should feel pretty solid in Omaha. All right, recruiting 2025 class here. We're not going to move to 2026 until after the next week. I'll start looking at it next week, or at least updating you folks on what's going in that class until next week. But five-star shooting guard Braden Burries committed to Arizona, adding to Koa Pete. Big-time recruiting victories in the offseason for Arizona. They have not really hit the portal yet this offseason, but you're bringing in a couple of five-star recruits, especially the way this past class really panned out. Big-time contributors all over in the freshman class. Perhaps that is the route that Tommy Lloyd is choosing to go with his money, with his funds, with his time. So Arizona building from within. Will Wade got his first big recruit at NC State. Top 30 prospect shooting guard Matt Abel. We know Will Wade will be able to recruit. That has never, ever been a question for him. He's brought a couple guys with from McNeese, power conference level players, and Quadir Copeland and Alan Breed. Add in a big time 4-star recruit, and it's only a matter of time before the Wolfpack start winning. Kai, we talked about that a little bit with our guy Benny, past and future guest of the show, Benny Wisniewski. Big fan of the Will Wade hire in Raleigh. And then Bobby Hurley gets a recruit joining his foe, Arizona, big arch rival. 4-star power forward Marcus Jackson is headed to Tempe to play for the Sun Devils, top 100 guy. They're pretty bleak in the paint right now. There's a chance Jackson could start in my initial perusal of Big 12 rosters. So probably makes sense for him. Get some early playing time.
I'm not looking. Arizona State, bottom 5, Big 12 next year. Okay.
Yeah, Bobby Hurley, not the coach of Arizona State in 12 months.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right, Kai.
Agree.
Transfer world, yes, there's a million. If you really do want our player-by-player analysis on transfers, it cannot recommend the Discord enough. We're not going to be able to do it on here. There's just too many players. But we've got, like I said, this giant document that's at 150 names right now, and we've still got a ton of available players in the portal as of April 11th. So there will be all kinds of analysis coming in there, hammering it out as quickly as we can. There's been a couple names that we missed, and people say, "Hey, can you write this guy up?" And we do. That's the way it works in the Discord. We're here to serve and give you our opinions. You might not agree with them, you might not like them, but we're here to give them to you. That's what we can do. That's what we can offer. So for the portal, make sure you're in the Burner Discord. Sign up there. And now we get a quick soapbox gym. Kai, you ready for this?
Yes.
Everybody excited? Matt, you ready? You
I'm
pumped?
ready. That's why I
All
showed
right.
up today.
Well,
So I woke up.
this
So I got
is
out of bed.
just a quick injury tangent here because Jaden Quainton's ACL recovery timeline is being talked about like everybody knows exactly down to the day what it's going to be. And it's making me tear my hair out. I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it in the Discord. I've seen it on Reddit. People like, well, his agent told Jonathan Givony that he'd be cleared for contact by September. And he told him this 3 weeks after Quainton's had ACL surgery. And it is fully impossible to know that that is going to happen. I have torn my ACL in the past 3 years. I've mentioned it on the pod. I'm sure people are sick of me saying it, but I at least know enough that your rehab is a up and down case by case journey. You have to see how it responds to the graft. How fast you come back is really it's impossible to know until you get well into the rehab. Yes, there are people like Javon Quinterly, another JQ, or Rayshawn Taylor that have torn their ACLs very late in the season, come back and played the next year. Zakai Ziegler, another example. Adrian Peterson was the freak in the NFL that did it in like 6 months. But some guys, it takes the full year. Some guys, it doesn't completely work that way. There's also a mental hurdle you have to get over. I know that ACL recovery is better, but it's driving me nuts that people are just like, well, it's September. He's back in September and he's good by October and he's playing in November. We don't know. You don't know. His doctors don't know. He doesn't know. Stop it. Stop acting like it's fact. Okay.
This is good.
Climbs down.
This is
Climbs
good.
down from soapbox.
A 6 month recovery is quite impressive for an ACL, Jim.
Yeah.
Jim, what's
Some
the
people do
fastest
it.
you know
Not
on
everybody does it.
record? What's like the gold standard of like, holy cow, that guy's not a human?
I think it's Adrian Peterson in the NFL. That was the one that was just like completely
Oh, okay.
freakish, where he was like running for 1,800 yards 6 months
He
after
came back
doing
like
it.
way better. Yeah, like the Tommy
Yeah,
John bump.
yeah,
Yeah.
in the NFL, yeah, and yeah, it's another thing. Even when the guys do get back, they're not the same. Like Javon Quinterly took some real time to look like himself. Zakai Ziegler, even like a month into the season, wasn't quite back to himself. So even if he is cleared for contact in September and playing by November, it's not going to be the same guy. So we'll see. He's also bigger than those guys. I think it's probably tougher on your knee when you're running around with 260 pounds, whatever Quaintance is, instead of 180 like Ziegler. So hey, let's treat it with the uncertainty that it has. Okay, other random news and notes before we move into a Final Four recap. College NIL. We know it has brought some big guys back in the past where, maybe Hunter Dickinson would have gone pro or Zach Edey. The college game better for those sort of plodding-ish big men. And you add in some money of NIL, and they're more than happy to come back and play another college year. But Kai JT Toppin broke the bank in Lubbock. Some reports saying 4 million, pretty much confirmed that it's north of 3 million, well above that. Rather interesting because you can compare it to what he would have gotten in the NBA, just assuming first round pick.
Yes, per Reddit, Jim, approximately what the 16th NBA pick makes his first year. Do not get mad at me if this is false. I'm relying on other people for this. I don't care about the NBA draft. But my point is, I think this is one of the main examples that I can think of that was like, oh, this guy probably would have been a first rounder. He's going to be a junior. He's still pretty young. And they gave him enough money to be like, yep, I'm coming back to school. You might see more of that. I think 4 million is ridiculous for any player in college basketball, but JT Toppin could be the best player in the country next season. So benefit for Texas Tech if they have the money. Benefit for JT Toppin, he gets another year in college, and he gets actual money before he will eventually go to the pros and make even more money. It's good all around and good for the sport, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, he's a returning first team All American. It's hard to give him too much crap for that. I mean, this reminds me a little bit of when Janai Broom returned last year. It was like, oh, this guy who's a mega stud by every statistical measure and was part of a big time winning team was going to return and anchor his team. Yeah, Texas Tech's going to be elite, even with Darian Williams entering the portal. Kai, maybe if we're just quickly touching on price tags, the rumors that Rob Wright, who I adore, love and adore, got $3.5 million at
Yeah.
BYU. is ludicrous. He's probably not all American level good. He can't defend with his size, but money is flowing like water in in Provo. So I guess whatever.
How does BYU have so much money?
There's one billionaire. I forget his name.
Okay.
People will yell at me.
Yeah.
Some people are more tuned into that, but yeah, they have one billionaire who's just backing them like crazy.
I was thinking, I was like, man, why would you want to go to BYU? Well, Baylor's not too different from BYU in terms of social things you can do, we'll say, in the after hours of college basketball.
Yeah, not quite the same honor code at Baylor, but yes,
Yeah.
you do have to. You
Watch
do
your
have
P's and Q's.
there you go. Well said, Kai. We're gonna finish with the stat of
That's
the
on
day.
mute, by the way.
Oh, what, Matt, you have something to
I hate when that
add?
happens. That happens. The villain of, or sorry, BYU is quickly becoming a villain in the college basketball.
Yeah,
realm,
the
I think.
Yankees, the Dodgers, just like dumping money on people. Yeah, we'll see if next year if people love them because of Devonta and if he's likable. We don't know him quite as well personality wise as Flag, but yeah, that's going to be a fun little test. If people get sick of them just shoving people aside with all their money.
Did you see? I think it was Goodman. He said that Wright signed a $1 million contract with Baylor, and then BYU contacted him, offering him three and a half, whatever it was. So he bailed. And that's one of the examples of, hey, maybe contracts should be enforceable in college basketball because now Baylor, shoot, they were relying on this guy to be one of their best players next season, and now it's like it blew a hole in their roster. Don't feel bad for Baylor. Obviously, they have plenty of money, but that is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, at minimum, there should be buyout type stuff.
Yes.
If you sign that contract, legally enforceable, all right, you pay us 500K for breaking the contract. That's probably too high, but the half the value of the contract, I don't know if that works, but something for breaking the deal and going and taking something elsewhere, I think would be good for the sport to not allow that. Matt, your boy Dylan Darling had the old, I think Sam Fetterman called it out, the I'm returning, I'm back post, and then 2 days later entered the portal. So yeah, we get a few of those as well every single year because guys find out what they're worth and via back channels and decide to enter the portal.
I hate kids, Jim. I do.
Matt hates kids.
I hate kids.
These kids,
These kids.
all
We
legal
still on Gen
adults.
Z or we past Gen Z? Is Gen Z still in the
Well,
college?
Your daughter, Matt,
What's the
is
cutoff?
Alpha. So
She's alpha
Actually,
now.
she
Just
might
got
be-
started. She's the bounce back
is she
generation.
beta
Guy.
or is she alpha? When was
No,
the
she's
cutoff?
alpha.
When was the cutoff?
She's alpha. We would have put her up for adoption if she was beta. She's an alpha gen member.
I'd have
Okay,
to look.
good. Yes.
I think college is just Gen Z right now, though. I don't think alpha's quite there.
Of course.
Okay. All right. So we're going to finish Roots Roundup with the stat of the day. This one's via Action Network and brought to my attention by Twitter user Forever Crimson _. So thank you for doing this to me. Florida is only the second champ since 1985 to start the NCAA tournament 0-2 against the spread and still go on to win the national title. I thought that was nuts. Just basically, if you don't play that well in your first two games, it's really hard to go win the title. And Florida did not cover against Norfolk State. They did not cover against UConn. They do go on to win the title. For those wondering into their computers, the only other team to do so was 1997 Arizona, who was also the only team to beat 3 1 seeds en route to the national championship. So impressive stuff from the Gators from 28 years ago, Arizona, the last time the Pac-12 won a title. So good for them. Good for them. All right, that's it. Fellas, let's go to We've Saw That. The unsponsored We've Saw That. We're back. Bad boys of unsponsored podcast segments. Final 4 takeaways. Kai, let's start with the mood and the environment, the atmosphere that was San Antonio. Unfortunately, Matt did not get to join us. I'm curious what his takes were, if he got any sense of it watching the games on TV. But Kai, we loved it. Riverwalk is electric. Got to see a ton of people. The Alamo Dome was, I think, an even better venue than all the true NFL places. The Alamo's really underwhelming. All right, Kai, what direction do you want to go in with your San Antonio takes?
Matt wanted to jump in, it looked like.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the Alamo Dome because I've been there many moons ago, and it's just like that's a better basketball venue. It just doesn't feel as cavernous, right? I would assume they felt that way. Yeah.
Rectangular is how I would put it.
Yes.
Which I did not expect. I had dome in my head as like circles. But yes, way less cavernous than a Super Bowl gosh, I always say Super Bowl, NFL Stadium. Still huge, but the sightlines were better. So I do think the environment was better in the Alamo Dome than, say, Phoenix's place last year, Glendale, State Farm Center, I think it is. Not even comparable, in my opinion. The Riverwalk, Jim, is excellent. It's like San Antonio's Bourbon Street, but it's way cleaner than Bourbon Street. There's no guardrails on the river, so I'm sure they get millions of people falling into that every single year, but it's like 3 feet deep, no big deal. You can carry drinks around down there. They have every single chain restaurant imaginable down there, so it's clearly a tourist trap. But man, during the day when the weather's nice, it's gorgeous, cool place to hang out. Everyone's sprawling the city there. Really, really cool. Really, really cool. I was very impressed by the Riverwalk.
Yeah, I'll give one of those shout out to the Riverwalk that we didn't do as much, Kyle. You can go pretty far north and south.
Hmm.
And we kind of just did like the main central loop where there is very much chain stuff. But in 2018, I walked pretty far north to a like rooftop bar on a hotel, and you can go pretty far south down to some hotels. So there's a lot. It's a big space, and considering the weather we got, it was great to be outside like the entire time. It wasn't boiling lava hot. It was a little chilly on Sunday when we did our big crawl, but still fantastic. A wonderful city, great mood. I said it a couple times. It's Saturday of Final Four when all four fan bases are just electric and expecting to win. I knocked over my microphone. Hopefully that didn't register too much on the audio. But yeah, it's great. It's really cool to see. And even Sunday, Duke fans were still there despite being completely heartbroken. And Florida and Houston fans were out in strength. Florida Gator stuff everywhere at the airport too.
Yeah,
Shout out to the people we got to hang out with, Kai. There were a ton between Thursday and Friday and Sunday. Got to see a ton of people, met some new folks, and generally had a blast.
we sure did, Jim. And I want to say the fan bases pretty evenly spread. I would say Florida probably represented. I noticed them the most. That probably is because they extended their stay a little bit. In the stadium, Houston was quite present, quite there. They were better to avoid the touristy areas, I think, because they are more familiar with San Antonio. Plenty
Yeah.
of Duke. Again, how many people will go to Duke? Lots of fans out there for how small that school is. Take that for
Oh,
what you will, Matthew.
definitely
Yeah,
the
I saw
least
John
filled
Henson
student
was throwing
section
stones. He was
was
holding people
Duke.
accountable
Who was?
on the dais. John Henson was
John,
like
yeah.
stopping people walking behind the Phil 16 and asking. He's like, "Hey, can you name 5 players from Duke in the last
Well,
12 years or something?"
they could do that, but maybe not like the dorms of Duke. Something like that.
Yeah.
Where'd
Where
you
did
live
you have
freshman
your
year?
where was your food
Who's your
hall plan
teacher?
at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim, I would, yes, I would also say be careful where you book your Airbnbs. Jim and I learned an important lesson. Mainly I learned an important lesson. Check to make sure you're not in a tough area when you're booking your Airbnbs. We survived, but we definitely Ubered everywhere when we probably could have walked.
Yeah, we had multiple air or Uber drivers pick us up and be like, "Oh, like first guy that picked me up was like, do not go another block east. Don't do it." And the
Yep.
guy who picked me up to take me to the airport on Tuesday was like, this is bad. Why are you here?"
Yep.
So
Mistake by old
yeah,
Kai. Mistake, but we got through it, Jim. Yes. Here we
I
are.
think we'll be maybe in a hotel in Indy when they're all right downtown. Everything's walkable. Let's get in the heart of the city. And hey, you save money on Ubers that way, Kai. That's what we learned.
You sure do, Jim. Hey, pickup was fun though.
Pig was great. Got to meet a few folks from the Athletic, my coworkers. Oh, can you believe it? A couple other guys, Rod Baxley, Graham Hain, or Graham White, or Connor O'Neill. A couple different guys, J-Man, just different folks that we've interacted with on Twitter and got to play some ball. Always fun to do that up at the main gym at UTSA.
Yeah.
Felt like we were real stars out there. My God, those courts are long, just
So
compared to
long.
what I usually play on.
College threes are so far. They're so far. The amount of air balls in the media pickup game was substantial.
Yeah.
Because the shots
Kai
far.
and I both participated in those air
Sure.
balls.
Had a few air balls. You could just feel the heat though, Matt, being on the Convocation Center floor in front of 4,000 screaming fans. Can you
Right.
imagine? Can you imagine what the
Was,
Roadrunners feel like all the time?
I was hoping Mr. Claunch was out there scouting you boys. No,
He was not.
Uh,
And
tough.
we saw the tweets from the UTSA players hinting that UTSA wasn't giving them any NIL money. from Damari Monsanto, I think, tweeted that.
Oh yeah,
So
they're one of the
Yeah, I
schools
think
that
he got the
have
ball
yeah.
rolling there.
yeah, he didn't. Maybe he didn't
Um,
want to answer questions on that.
they
Hmm.
did just get a big commit, like surprising if they actually don't have money. I can't remember who it was. I'll try to look it
It,
up
it's
as we
been
go
a
here.
it's
But
been a precarious rise of program relevance for a school that hasn't really had a ton of success, right? I know there's a. Have you guys seen the Sacramento State stuff? Their president's going completely off the rails on Twitter
yeah,
and Reddit.
calling
He's
Yeah,
he's calling
literally like
FCS
responding
JV
to random Reddit
football.
comments. Yeah,
they
Yeah,
got
pretty good
Shaquille
stuff.
O'Neal. Whoa,
Oh yeah, that's a nice little. That's a good get. Good
he
get.
played at Florida A&M. No offense, but
Shaquille O'Neal
give
stinks.
me a break. Why do
Yeah,
Shaq's kids
yeah.
all stink? Because he's Shaq.
And, I don't think he wanted to apply the same pressure. I think
Yeah,
if you're a really awesome athlete, you don't want to put like Michael Jordan's kids. Like you just don't want your
yeah,
kid to be like you. Maybe you want him
Yeah,
just to
that's
have a
fair.
chiller
yeah.
lifestyle.
Like LeBron's
Yeah,
kid, he doesn't want his kid to be like him.
yeah.
Just
Sacramento
close to
State
as good, but
did
not as good.
did also get though Bear Cherry from
Oh,
UNLV,
that's a good
who
get.
is going to be a friggin' monster in the Big Sky. So I won't completely count them out. And yeah, UTSA seemingly not fully suffering from the as Kai was saying, the rumors about it. I don't have the guy logged in my roster sheet right now, but they got somebody yesterday that was like, "Wow, that's a nice little snag." Okay, let's move on to the games, fellas. They were really good. Why are we burying the basketball? That's not what we do here. We've got three fantastic games. The winner overcame a 9 point or bigger deficit in all three games. Houston was down 14 to Duke. Florida was down 12 to Houston. And Florida was down 9 to Auburn before a big Will Richard and one turned the tide. We had the tournament of no buzzer beaters. We didn't quite get a buzzer beater in this one, but the drama was short in the tournament. Not the case at the Final Four, Kai. Three games that we will remember for sure. I mean, the Houston comeback against Duke is one that stands out the most to me.
Mhm.
Left me speechless, left me shaking. Just stunning stuff at the end, considering how dominant Duke was all year. What stands out to you most from the ball that was?
Yeah, well, Jim, we saw Auburn, Florida, and I was like, that's one of the better games I've seen in the Final Four. Incredible back and forth comeback. I was like, wow. And then Duke Houston kind of started off like a lead balloon. It was like Duke is way better than Houston. And by the way, he whispers into the mic, Duke was the best team in the Final Four. Just from the eye
Yes.
test, it was pretty clear. I mean, they were
Yeah.
punking Houston, and then somehow, some way, the Cougars come back from what 6 down with a minute left. Duke craps on its leg. Uh, All-time classic, like literally. And I could not process the results of this for even a couple days after. Like Jim said, it was like that really just happened because that was the most bizarre, crazy thing I've witnessed live in a basketball game. Truly, truly incredible stuff.
Yeah, if I have to be like the nitpicker a little, we didn't get a big go ahead shot. Like Houston took the lead with free throws.
Mhm.
Florida came back with free throws against Houston in the final game. You'd like to have that big iconic moment, and maybe for that it is Flag coming up short on that fadeaway jumper where it was actually a pretty solid look. He got his feet under him. He said, he can go to bed comfortable with that shot, and it really was pretty solid in the middle of the lane, something he can hit. We got a lot of shot making in Auburn, Florida. Walter Clayton hit some absolutely absurd shots.
Yeah.
And Matt, I think the big surprise for me was that Auburn lost a really good Chad Baker Mazzara game. Like we typically thought their
Yeah.
big weakness was that he might implode, do something on the court to get booted, or just generally go for an old Caleb Love game where he'd finish like 3 for 16 and shoot his team out of it. But no, he was terrific. He was arguably their best player, especially after Jeni Broom wore down against that deep, deep Florida front court. And Florida still was able to knock off Auburn. Matt, you were at home getting the Iron Eagle calls. You were here in
Mm.
Raft, call the big moments. What stood out for you, Matt, either from the announcing or just from the hoops?
Well, the best Iron Eagle Raftry moment was the Sasquatch State reference. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was like the first TV timeout in the Houston Florida game, which was a shot making disaster. I know there's some people trying to claim that they
So bad.
they loved how, oh, you don't appreciate basketball. That's just great defense. It's like no, the first 10 minutes was just terrible shooting. Like the
Yeah,
misses,
hard
there were
disagree with
four
that.
like
Yeah.
backboard only misses. And Wolfson asked Sampson about it. And he's like, it's like, well, both teams can't make shots. This isn't, we're not playing, Sasquatch State over here. This is Florida. And then And then Eagles like, hey, Raph, what was your record against Sasquatch? And Raph's like, 3-0 down there. Tough place to go. And what he had a good little quirk about it. But anyway, that was, I think, the back to Auburn, Florida. I mean, I really wasn't surprised. I mean, I was kind of trying to beat my chest about my Florida is better than Auburn take a month ago. So I think that was just, I felt vindicated by that result. A healthy Jeni Broom, like a fully healthy Jeni Broom, though. Maybe that game's a little bit different. I thought that started to show a little bit in that game. And I think the Walter Clayton thing really just, I mean, that was kind of that was the difference. I agree with the Houston Duke analysis. Kai, you're saying Duke was clearly the best team eye test wise. I agree. I was sort of dismissive of people saying, "Oh, Duke has not played in close games. That will hurt them." And I kind of like, and then I thought about it in the Houston game. It's like, yeah, that kind of showed, right? And it kind of brought back some nightmares from the early part of November when Duke was not good in those one possession games in the Champions Classic. Flag had a couple of bad moments. I think we all expected that, okay, now he's 3-4 months older. It's like they're all figured out and Duke plays much better. But maybe there is something to say for, maybe the ACC's lack of true top end teams kind of hurt Duke in that moment. I actually am open to hearing that argument as someone who was like, oh, stop it. Duke's the best team. They'll be fine.
Coaching?
Yeah, I think. What did you
Yeah,
say?
Shire was tough. I mean, I think it said Shire
late
was
game
much better this
coaching.
year, but
I
down
don't
the
know.
stretch, I thought Shire was poor. I thought he was in the inbounding stuff. But again, I thought Duke's play, the game pressure that Houston can put on you is no one has that. The way they
Right.
pressure you, how aggressive they are, the shots they can make that are just crazy. They can go get every offensive. Like it's such a flurry of like chaos, and it's just like the one team that if you don't want game pressure against, it is that team. And they got in that spot, and the snowball just kept rolling.
Yeah, in I think it was Ant Wright that put together a video of, like in all four Duke losses, they were within a possession with like under 30 seconds left, had a chance with the ball, and it was all like kind of stagnant ISO, or they meant to try to go for a ball screen. The guy got knocked off his path, and it was not a lot of creativity. And as you mentioned, Shire didn't have a bunch of chances to try different things late in games, and they didn't have a lot of reps, whether it was Knipple with the ball or Flag with the ball, guys that weren't able to just see how it felt in that moment until late. And for the fourth time, they weren't able to get over the hump. We did have a big Tyrese Proctor missed front end. It's not good for the sort of veteran leader of that team. Shaky over the back call that put Jawan Roberts at the line on the other end. But to his credit, he's a worse free throw shooter than Proctor, and he knocked down both. So there's something to be said for the guy that actually makes the shots when he's given the opportunity. It didn't really work on the other side for Duke. A quick Ian Eagle call that I did hear that was fantastic when Flag had that insane and one reverse layup where he was like on one side of the basket and somehow spun it on the other side. Raftery screamed Cooper Flag full mast, which is
Yeah, that's great.
like just an innuendo enough to be
Yeah.
really fantastic. I don't know if he got a slap on the wrist from his bosses at Turner, but at CBS. But that was terrific. Just it was not quite he gave us the full car wash for Cohen Carr, that massive dunk in the Sweet 16. But I love a good eagle, this kind of eagleism, a birdism as it would be. But yeah, overall, just incredible games. Really thrilled we got to see three close ones down the stretch. I would argue two of them were really good. The title game, fellas, let's talk about that quick because the first half rocked. It was a up and down kind of free flowing. I mean, there wasn't great shot making, as Matt mentioned. Some bricks, some air balls, even some like floaters that didn't hit the rim.
Yeah.
Kind of, it seemed like guys were cross-eyed or there was wind in the Alamo Dome. But there were only 4 fouls called, so it felt like we had flow. We had one of those instances where the under 16 timeout had not happened and we were already under 12. So we had TV timeout, 1 free throw, TV timeout, second free throw, which was absurd, but that is what you have to deal with when there aren't stoppages. Then the second half became a total ref show. There were 26 fouls called after 4 in the first half. Florida had 5 fouls in the first 3 minutes on like bumping screens. Then they got a technical because an assistant got too far off the bench, apparently. Matt, was this as infuriating at home as it was in the arena. Because I mean, everyone, both sides, was just exasperated like 10 minutes into this half.
Yeah, the refs were bad, I thought, in the title game. Just not, I mean, just zooming out for the entire, I thought they were just poor, inconsistent both ways. I know Tony Padilla was sort of he was in the crosshairs of everyone on Twitter, and yeah, you cannot, the tech threshold has to be super high in the Final Four. It just does. I don't want to hear they're all the same, the rules apply the same. I'm just not, I don't subscribe to that. So, it's got to be something insane. Like, and that just it wasn't.
Yeah, an assistant
Sapphire
getting
did he
too far
take
from the
some
bench.
blame for that?
He doesn't
Did he
know.
take
He
some?
doesn't
No,
know who they called it on. Actually,
yeah,
It was,
they
they
didn't
didn't
tell him
say
which
it,
one
right?
it
It was
was.
just like one of you guys or you
An
guys.
assistant, yeah.
uh,
It was bad. It was
Yeah, it was
bad. There's
absurd.
no flow,
yeah,
no flow, and obviously it really hurt Houston most with Francis getting 4 fouls, Tugler getting 4 fouls, and they played small for like 5 minutes late, and or Florida, excuse me, dominated that section of the game.
yeah. The one I think the most important thing for refs is to be consistent, and going from not calling anything in the first half, which was just as physical as the second half, and
Yes.
then calling everything in the second half was crazy to me. It really took it out of it. It's a shame. It shouldn't have been a ref show. Let them play physical. Two very physical teams, not just Houston. Florida's very physical as well. It was unfortunate, and it's unfortunate the game ended on a loose ball, and we didn't get to see like Houston take that final shot and try to win the game or try to tie the game. But is what it is. Gators
You
won.
could
Yeah,
argue the tech was really that was the kind of the switch of the whistle. So, as annoying as that was from a Florida fan perspective, the whistle started coming your way, or at least being called
Oh yeah, they evened it
yeah,
right back up.
it
tighter after
evened
that
up.
very
Yeah,
quickly.
suddenly it was
Right.
7-7 in fouls after it started 5-0 really quick. Yeah, to Kai's point, like everybody was doing the same things they were in the first half, but they were getting called for a bunch of fouls. And when you don't know what's a foul as a player, how do you play?
Right.
Like, am I
And
allowed to
I
do
would
this? Am I
argue
not?
that the first half Houston got away with a lot. Even I know Ref Observer guy on Twitter was saying, and I agree with them, the freedom of movement stuff, we've almost have like forgotten about that. And a lot of times you just like guys can't cut through the lane. Like they're just constantly bumped and checked, which you could argue is good old gritty basketball. But it is inconsistent. Like you just sometimes they call it, sometimes they don't. And I do think the whistle, as I mentioned before, probably annoying some people listening for some teams, and Houston's one of those teams. The type of whistle you get means a ton. And I think it was to the point where it was significant enough in that game, especially with the game flow, how that played out, that you could argue the Zebras played a significant role in you not, I'm not saying they cost you the title, but they played a very large role in the fact that Houston did not win that game.
Yeah, Kai, there was a Florida fan behind us. Even as Florida got like 5 fouls early, he started screaming like, "This is good." Like a tightly officiated game is good for
Yeah.
Florida. And I was like annoyed by the guy, but I was like, he's probably right. And he
Yeah,
kind of
agree.
ended up being right. Because, as I mentioned, 4 fouls for Francis, 4 for Tugler. With like, I think Tugler got his with around 9 minutes left, and he didn't return until there was 2:18 left in the game.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Yeah, Sampson kind of fouled him out. I think I want to say Will Warren or maybe John Fillner, one of those two in our Discord was like, or no, it was Eric Fawcett, sorry, who said like that's just one of those differences between Houston's a little older school staff and Florida's, where they would not have benched their own guy with 4 fouls for
Mhm.
7 minutes down the stretch. And Tugger did foul out like immediately when he came back in, but
He knows his personnel,
uh,
I suppose. Yeah.
yeah, but
Uh,
I think you got to go down swinging with your guys instead of playing that small ball
yeah.
lineup that Florida took advantage of.
Question for both of you. What do you think the Houston offensive stagnation? What percentage of the pie chart is Florida defense versus Houston offense?
I just think that's kind of their offense, man. Like even
Yeah,
Sampson
it's
said they rely on unscripted plays in the
Yeah,
presser. He's
yeah,
like
I heard that
a
too. Yeah.
beautiful play is worth just as much as an offensive rebound.
It's
So
funny
he does not care
be-
about sets
Right.
and beauty.
He also
But-
said though, he talked about how like they spent so much time on baseline out of bounds plays, but like they don't spend like nearly the same amount of time on like half court execution plays, which at that point in time, the way that game was going, I would have liked to have seen
Yeah.
something. I don't know. There just was nothing
Yeah.
there.
Get the
Well,
ball
the
to
biggest
Cryer.
problem, yeah, get it to cry. The biggest problem is you have 4 turnovers in the final 2 minutes. That none of those are shots on the rim, where you have a chance
You
at the
can do
offensive
what you do,
rebound.
yeah.
If that's your whole point of your offense, at minimum you have to get shots up. And I'm going to give Florida like probably over 50% credit because the Clayton closeout, like scramble fly it sharp on the last play was amazing. The Richard
Yeah.
dig down, knock it off the leg on the drive was amazing. Cryer took one terrible like reverse layup that got eaten alive at the rim, or maybe they counted as a turnover. It was really bad. But I thought Florida put him in tough spots. Martin is a monster defender. Will Richard is a fantastic defender. And then they've also got size. And the one I didn't mention there, Clayton, made arguably the defensive play of the game against Sharp on the final play, sprinting out, and not very good screens by Francis and Roberts. They did not even make him change his route from under the basket to Sharp at the top of the key. And it's those little things on a big play like that come back to bite you. But yeah, I mean, Houston looked like sort of clogged toilet on that final play and don't get a great shot off. And credit to Florida for taking advantage, getting after the loose ball, and basically ending the game. Kai, final question for you. How many players would you say played well in the title game? Like, actually, you would walk off and say, I had a good game. I think Will Richard, 100%.
Yes, he had a fantastic game. Yes.
But then it's like Cryer was 6 for 18. Clayton was 3 for 10 and well below his scoring average despite having 7 assists. It felt like Thomas Houck had a good game, but he had 5 points and 5 boards. I don't know. Francis and Wilson played well off the bench for Houston, I guess.
I think Condon played okay, I guess. I don't
Did
know.
he? He was unplayable in the first half. He traveled like 4 times.
Yeah. I mean, no one, I guess. A lot of guys did not play very well. Malik Wilson had a great game from Malik Wilson. He stepped
Malik
up.
Wilson. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
But that's about it. Yeah, it was an ugly game.
Yeah. It wasn't Butler or UConn 53, Butler 41. It was certainly not that level of disgusting, but it should be remembered more for being close than for being good. That is my submission to the scribes of history. Let's not make this game some back and forth shot making display of eliteness. It was more a battle of attrition
Yes.
that ended up close late, and Florida made one more play, especially on the defensive end. All right, that's basically it, guys. Do we have any more further reflections? Kai, I know you've got some in here we can hit before we get on our way, but just look backs at the season.
Yeah, well, a couple things, Jim. Number one, I want to reflect real quick on the Gators. They are the champions after all. So I want to just kind of talk real quickly about how this team got put together, and we had them rated 31st in the offseason. Not all of us agreed at that point, but that was
third time was a charm. We were so high in the first 2 years of the golden era.
Yeah. This team used the portal perfectly. It could be the best portal job of all time, and it's hyperbole, but hey, they won the title, right? The talent identification and the fit identification was near perfect. This team was more talented than people gave them credit for, but I'd argue also they got guys that fit well together, that play well together. Remember Sam Alexis was like their first get this portal, and we were like, what?
Yep.
What are you doing? Guy wasn't even in the rotation for most of the year. And then, Walter Clayton becomes one of the best 5 players in college basketball. That helped. Fantastic job by Florida. 2 of their assistants got head coaching jobs this offseason. They did an incredible job.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the Jared Burson stat from the night. I believe they were the first team to win the title with no top 100 recruits in like 40 years.
Yeah,
and like
that's portal era,
Clayton
baby.
was Clayton and Martin were like no star recruits. You've got your backcourt was Belmont, Iona, and Florida Atlantic.
Yep,
and it worked out just fine. Washington State, Chinilu also in the starting lineup, but I mean, tip of the cap to the fit, the coaching job they did, the way they assembled, and the players made some insane plays late in games of all of those tough comeback wins. Matt, do you regret our preseason Gators ranking? The AP poll had them 21st, well ahead of the Weave.
A little bit. I think we were maybe scarred because the year before, it felt like a disappointment at times, but really like they were a bucket away, a kind of a defensive meltdown away from advancing to round sweet.
They would have been round to 32. No, they lost to Colorado in the first round, but they didn't have Handlockton, and who was a big part of the
defensive. And Golden talked about that was kind of the tone setter of their portal strategy. And obviously the guys they got were defensive, at least 2-way studs, right? Elijah Martin. Kind of his renaissance season defensively, he was terrific, and he was kind of that toughness, old head piece that they really needed. And I'll take 1% credit for that. I think I had sent like 5 messages to Sapphire, like, get Elijah Martin. This guy is a buy low. He was just hurt last year. He is awesome. So yeah, I mean, great
Well,
staff, smart staff, and I think age and
I
some
like I
semblance of
like Matt taking
continuity.
credit for that. I
yeah,
think that's
because
One
fair.
Matt
percent. I
Matt
want one
didn't like
percent credit.
Elijah Martin. I liked Elijah Martin. You like Nelly
Oh,
Davis
stop!
better in Florida
I
Atlanta.
loved it.
When I said
The
Martin was the
last
best
year, you're
player,
right.
you
Last
threw
year I
that in
did
my
because he was
face.
hurt. Last year, you're right. He was hurt. This year, he was not hurt.
I
Was
also do
not
want to
hurt this
shout
year.
out internal development. Halk and Condon were Florida recruits. This is both their sophomore seasons, and they both improved by leaps and bounds. That's internal development. So you had the perfect combination of portals, identification of talent, fit, and player development. I mean, it really was a masterclass in team construction and coaching. Really,
Yep.
will we ever see four dominant teams like this again, fellas? That was kind of the story. Was those four teams were way ahead of the pack. Four of the best teams in the last 30 years for KenPom. Is the ending of the COVID year going to help that? The NIL ruling, maybe evening the playing field. Duke's one of the best teams ever not win a title. Trend or coincidence? Same with the Tourney chalk. Is it a trend? Is it a coincidence? What do you think, Jim?
I'm gonna go hard coincidence.
I
And I
agree.
know people want to make this huge trend of like NILs ruin the sport and only elite teams are gonna be around and Cinderella is dead and buried and no, she's climbing out of the grave next year. I think we'll see and maybe it's not a mid-major 12, but I think we'll see a 4 seed in the final four or something. Like I don't think the imbalance towards 1 seed is going to be crazy like this. Duke had one of the best freshmen of all time. And then the other teams got some really shocking returners with, Cryer using his 5th year, Roberts using 5th year. Broom coming back was stunning. Walter
Yeah.
Clayton really was somewhat surprising. He obviously elevated his game from where he was last year, but all those teams had a first team All American and they had balance, they had coaching. I don't know if we'll see that collection of, especially in four different ones. Like maybe we'll see one or two that are that dominant, but we haven't seen it since, or like in 28 years of Ken Pom. That's why we had four of the top 10 Ken Pom teams relative to their current years. I don't think we see it again, Matthew.
I think we'll see, right, like the 3, 4, 5, 6 seeds. I think we'll see more of those teams back crashing the Final Four, quote unquote, crashing the Final Four. But I do think the true lower double digit Cinderella. I think we're going to see more of the same as we saw at this. I just think the first round is going to start to lose its luster. It's upward sledding for these teams. I think the 4s and 5s and 6 seeds are better and better and better every year. And there's just the margin for error for those, 11, 12s, 13s, not just because there's fewer spots, but it's just hard for them to win. They don't have the same depth. And I think a lot of the coaching advantages that those teams used to have is starting to whittle away, right? You're seeing the consolidation of a lot of the smart minds going to be assistants at power conferences. A lot of the power conference head coaches are adopting those D2 mid-major brain power stuff. So it's like they're running out of ways to close the talent gap. And I think that was very clear. Obviously, it's a small sample, one tournament, but I think you're seeing some evidence of that, which is
Yeah,
a bummer.
Matt,
But
you see that this is credit to Riley Davis for pointing this out to me, but even Hubert Davis says he's going to take a deep dive on analytics this offseason. So
right. See, the
watch out for
dumbest Power
that.
Six coach is going to start to get, it's like, oh, no. It's sort of like when the Rockies finally figure out to start using analytics in baseball. It's like, well, then there's no other, there's no inefficiency opportunities, I guess, for teams without money or something.
Yep.
Yeah,
Is that it, Kai? Any other? You've got more thoughts in here. We could
I
defer them till later.
I do.
But
We'll defer the weave reflection till later. I just looked at our top 10. I was curious. But
yeah, and rule changes I definitely want to get to in a later
yeah,
off-season
I'm
pod.
just
We love
curious.
to
We'll get to
discuss
next
rule
year.
changes.
Yeah, we can
I have
do that
some rule
next
changes
pod as
written
well.
down too.
Yeah, I just really hope stuff changes, but we can leave it at that, Jim. Suffice to say, congrats to the Gators.
Yeah, I think we've complained about reviews and the volume of them on this pod quite a bit this season, and we'll do probably one more. Hopefully, they'll change it to a challenge system. But
But not
yeah,
the type of
we'll get to
reviews
that.
we're about to do, right?
No. The good reviews are the ones that come from you, the listener, who we love and respect for listening to us all year, dealing with us. Hopefully, you've been in Discord interacting with us. You've been in the chat going back and forth. We love all of you. We got to meet a few more people at the Action Network event in Chicago over the Elite Eight. We got to meet some people at the Final Four. We love getting to chat with folks that somehow enjoy our BS rambling. So, Kai, let's finish with some reviews from those beloved listeners.
Yes, from BT224. I actually only about college basketball podcasting is the title. You guys rock. Excellent. He said he's a huge college basketball fan. Feels like he's on an island with the opinion that NIL has had no impact on the tournament and the lack of Cinderella teams this year. The vast majority of tournaments, there are a few upsets early. The best teams end up winning. Of course, there's exceptions that we remember, but it's not the norm. I think if anything has impacted the tournament, it is how much better teams are seeded these days. Ooh, this was an outlier.
I like that take. I like that take.
So there's an outlier this year with 4 clear top teams. They played that way. Any opinions on NIL's impact on the tournament or on the future of the tournament with the shift towards made conferences? We did talk about that a little bit, but I agree, Jim. The seeding generally has gotten better because they are putting more stock in analytics like KenPom for seeding purposes. We, of course, had some weird ones this year, but that's a good point.
Yeah, but if they went pure resume, like they probably would in the past, like Memphis might have been a 4 seed and they lose. I mean, I guess they got a 5, lost to a 12, but there would have been some fairly big differences on where teams got put this year that would have opened up the possibility of more upsets. I really like that point. I hadn't actually thought about that. So that's good. Well done, BT224.
Cabo Rave says, fun. Enjoy, boys. Revel in all this as I know you're going. Oh, geez. Revel in this all as I know you're doing to the hilt. Rave on. Lucky you. It's like a poem. It's like a haiku almost, Jim.
Now, Kai, was his title of his review a reference to the band?
Aha.
Or was it just?
I don't know. Is that a? Maybe it is.
I think I'm just being an idiot, but
maybe it's a song lyric. Thank you though for the review, Cabo Rave. Finally, Sports Listen. Great pod. Love the content. Appreciate all the content throughout the year, including the off season. Sorry about your Tigers. Yes, this was back right after the Tigers lost. Question about Survivor. In one with apologies, we're a little late. In one with 57 people left that have used St. John's, Iowa State, Tech, Maryland. Screwed if Tech and Maryland reach the ship and the competition is still ongoing. Competition is still ongoing. Curious on what your strategy would be. Thanks. Well, sorry, we screwed this one up by not reading this earlier.
Instant reactions to questions like this are found in the Discord.
Yeah,
Join.
there you go.
So, yes, sorry we weren't able to hit it. We appreciate the 5-star review. I hope you won your pool.
Me too. That was it. Appreciate the reviews. Jim, take it away.
That's it, folks. That is the 2024-25 college basketball season. Our off-season recording schedule is a little in flux right now. We'll probably still be Thursday or Friday mornings because that works best for my man, Kai. But we'll let you know what episodes are coming, which weeks. The coaching higher grades will be the biggest one. Then we'll do our recap, look back pods of the big conferences, how we did, make fun of ourselves for our bad takes, prop ourselves up for actual good takes. We'll get into a little bit of draft decisions, transfer portal stuff, winners and losers. All that will be coming, but we'll probably have a week off, maybe 2 mixed in there. But again, thank you everybody for listening, for tuning into this show, for tuning into Best Bets on Saturday, where we had some really good numbers on YouTube this year. That was great. Awesome to hear. Awesome to have the interactions, as I said, in person, in the Discord. We love all of that. So yeah, credit to you, the listener at home, for making this show possible, making it worth doing. That's it. What a great season. Well done, fellas. Matt, Kai. This is Jim. Hooray. We'll talk to you soon. We'll let you know when via Twitter. But